I don't think there's a limit when it comes to making music in Aberdeen.
Aberdeen has impacted me as an artist.
Absolutely everybody is creative in some way, and for me that is music.
Music, it becomes established in your blood when you're very young, and it's always there. I think personally, I first noticed it when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I loved music.
Our very recent experiences in the city centre are of tall ships. That was well received. It was of a grand scale, and it shows the appetite not only for the city but for the North East audience. You know, it's so important that this Team Aberdeen approach is really there to solidify and build the opportunities, and it's not all about the Central Belt, London. It can be in the provinces.
I went to an open mic like this, and I saw Gerry playing on stage, and I actually had the pint on my table, and Gerry basically grabbed one of his music stands for lyrics, and he pretended that he's throwing it away, but the top beat wasn't secured, and I actually flew to the whole room, and it landed on my pint, smashed the pint. I was covered in beer. And then he came over and went, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Gerry Jablonski, you know," and I went, "Whatever, cool, man, you know, get off." and then he went on stage and he played, and I was like, wow. I'm going, what coincidence, you know. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, I wish I was in a band with this guy. It was like really mind-blowing. It's like, I've never seen a player like this. In the meantime, I met Dave Innes, who Gerry knew from the past. Gerry went solo, playing acoustic. Dave went down to London, and he was a session musician. He was playing for many bands, etc. He came back to Aberdeen and started appearing on the scene again. And Gregor and myself got involved in a band together with Dave. It was kind of okay, but then, you know, I was telling Dave, listen, I've met this guy, Gerry Jablonski, 2 years ago.
So we'll meet up at the Globe.
The Globe, yes.
On a Sunday night, we'll have a jam and
See how it goes.
see how it goes. I wasn't expecting doing it.
We knew each other from the past as well. It's a small town, huh?
Yeah, and I'm going, oh my God.
That's a mistake.
This will never work. This is all true.
We started rehearsing. Gerry had some material already and he was writing, so some of the songs that we still play in a set, not that many. We were jamming there, and then first show we played at the Blue Lamp in Aberdeen.
Which is a famous venue in Aberdeen. It's a kind of legendary venue for a first gig. For a lot of people do a first gig in the Blue Lamp. When we did the first gig, Sandy Brew, he was the owner of the Blue Lamp, he made up the name, Gerry Jablonski and the Electric Band, and that's how we advertised it in the paper. And that was the name on the first gig. And after that, we said, right, we've got to have a proper name. And we had a meeting, we went through 20 different names, and at the end, we went, well, forget it, we'll just call it Gerry Jablonski and the Electric Band, so we've already did a gig.
I met Gerry as a young lad in a place called Raiders, and I was snuck in. My drum teacher snuck me in, and he says, just sit there, just keep your business. There's this table that goes around the stage. I was sitting there and I was smoking, and there's drinks and everything, and my old man sitting there watching Gerry do his drums. He said, oh good on, and he just went, put the drink out of my dad's hand, knocked it back, and then started playing slide guitar with it. And I thought that was the most rock and roll thing I'd ever seen. Blew my mind at about 9 years old.
And here we are.
And here we are. If anybody asked me what a Gerry Jablonski band was like, I would always say they're just an absolute ball of energy, blues rock, and you don't go away disappointed, because you really don't. The entertainment level is through the roof, and it always has been. Honestly, you don't go away like you haven't got your money's worth out of the evening. That's the best way I can describe it.
We'll give you your money back if you don't like the show.
It's only a fiver.
And I think it's very gutsy, it's very raw, it's very in your face. When we start playing, you ain't getting away from it.
I think we just sound like ourselves. Obviously, they are influences, but we sound like ourselves.
I feel like I genre hop a lot. So I used to think that I was neo soul, and then I thought I was Afro R&B for a while, but I don't know what I am. I just make music. That's all I know. Growing up, I went to a primary school in Aberdeen, and that was my very first experience songwriting, and really thankful for my primary school teacher at the time. She kind of got everybody involved, and that's where I discovered that I had, this hidden gift, which was songwriting. And I kind of thankful for the church I grew up in as well. This was all in Aberdeen, so without primary school and the church in Aberdeen, there would be no IT. I think my music is very different. It's not something that you've heard. A lot of people have probably heard before. It does have that Afro, fast beat, but it isn't necessarily Afro beat.
Music is one of the biggest things in the world to me. It's always been the most important thing. The majority of experiences that I've had in my life can be attributed to it. I love the ability to be creative. That's my favourite thing. I like looking at music and the way music's structured as a puzzle, repurpose stuff that's maybe already famous, already been used, and turn it into something brand new with my own kind of spin on it. The process when it comes to DJs and artists working together actually goes hand in hand with each other. It's an equal partnership, and I think sometimes the role of the DJ in that partnership is understated. I always try my best to put a local act song somewhere in that mix, whether they're from Aberdeen or from Scotland in general, to try and get some more eyes on acts. There's so many acts out there that deserve a push.
I think growing up, my musical identity was kind of shaped initially by what was happening in America. So you would see on, the music channels, and obviously the start of YouTube. And then you started to have a bit more of a kind of surge down in London with the sort of grime scene, and acts like sort of Kano and Getz. And they were artists that what they were doing was sort of really fresh and exciting. So those kind of two sort of sides kind of started to really be inspirations that I drew from as I began sort of producing. I would describe my sound as being kind of exploring a number of different sort of subgenres within hip hop. So that spans from your kind of old school boom bap, sort of slower soul sample type things, through to your kind of 140, 150 grime, drill influences, and a bit of sort of Jersey club. Aberdeen maybe influenced my sound in that a lot of my stuff is quite cold and maybe more minor keys and things. I find myself generally gravitating into that kind of space more. The dark winters and things kind of feed into your general kind of mindset and the sort of mood that you're conveying in the work that you're doing. I think what's unique about the music scene in Aberdeen is that you definitely see the sort of support and love across different styles. So whether that's hip hop acts jumping up with an indie band or sort of live musicians playing with some of the hip hop things that we've got, I think everyone's just trying to lift everybody else up, and there's not too much of a sense of competition that I think you would maybe feel in a bigger city.
If we all network together, all speak to each other, we're all approachable people, and we all have different skill sets that when we put it together, we can make a really good finished product. So I think that's the best way to really push local music out there and give it the platform that it deserves.
There's a nice community in Aberdeen of musicians. People want others to do better. Artists will go and see other artists and bring along their friends, and that goes from bars that hold 30 people to venues that can hold 200-300 people.
Going to venues as a listener to see shows at the likes of like Tunnels and the Lemon Tree and, you know, like iconic venues like the Music Hall and stuff. As a musician, of course, you want to see your stuff played out on that stage, and I've been very lucky to have been able to play at some of those venues in my career. So I think that's definitely kind of like shaped a direction where I've seen acts that I idolise in some of these places, and I've wanted to sort of strive to get there myself.
A venue which is now sadly closed, which closed in 2017, was locally famous as the Malt Mill, and then rebranded to Downstairs, and we were actually the last ever band to play there. That was the place that made me want to be a drummer, because when I was 5, my dad would take me there and he would set up his drums. I would have a thrash about. So for me personally, that venue did a lot. Yeah, that closed in 2017. Our poster's still on the wall outside.
For me, it would be the Globe, because that's where the band came together, all the young. Then it would be the Blue Land, because that's where we played as the band first time. And then probably venues like Cafe Drummond's, probably first one that we sold out.
We love it there.
And that was great, you know. I love it. It's got the sweaty kind of rock and roll vibe, man, you know.
And the punters always show up in the drum-ins. So whenever we play drum-ins, it's always wild.
The amount of famous bands that played there, it's actually, the list is incredible, you know.
It's hosted a plethora of bands when they were coming through.
There's lots of venues in Aberdeen that don't get a shout as well. Just along for the Lemon Tree is the Art Centre. They're trying to regenerate it, just that's a huge stage. Krakatoa used to be the moorings, there's gigs on there all the time. Young people can play there, get filmed, get
again, great
opportunity.
Vibe. Great vibe.
Dirty vibe.
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone to get out and go to these venues. I know sometimes it doesn't cross people's minds, but these venues are trying so hard to boost the scene.
There's actually a lot of hidden gems in Aberdeen, in my opinion.
I think it's important that we have people in Aberdeen who are kind of established musicians to show the sort of next generations coming forward that it is a viable route and there are things that you can do and accomplish whilst still being here. A sort of bit of an older mindset is that, you know, you're trying to help, you know, shoot for this sort of thing, and that's silly and that'll never happen. And I think it can be like that up until a point, and then when you reach a tipping point, Scotland then really, really backs you, and you see that with like your Gerry Cinnamons, your Lewis Capaldi's, your Palanatinis, where Scotland really comes out for these acts. But I think you have to get to a certain point where it's like it's then okay to like you. So I think it's important to have visibility of artists locally that are doing music and showing you, and also feeding that knowledge and experience back in, and then also just having accessible spaces and venues for people to be able to cut their teeth and practice, get live experience without having to go out to different cities, and really sort of practice and hone their kind of art as well, so that when they get bigger opportunities, they're like ready to go and the ability is already there.
It truthfully feels like a harder mountain to climb when you're doing things here, as opposed to if you're either in England or in the Central Belt. I think things like Aberdeen Music Week obviously are a great addition to it. It helps shine a spotlight on all the talent that's available here, because just because we're far up north, it doesn't mean that there is a lack of talent. There's so much going on, and it just needs the right set of eyes on it to really push us all and progress everything.
Geography sometimes beats us up here, and it's retaining the local talent. We've experienced that in many projects that we've done at a macro level in the city and indeed nationally. One, for instance, is the New Art, the International Street Art Festival, where you're trying to keep the artists, but there needs to be some dividend for people to stay here. There needs to be opportunities back in festivals, and also going into the arts, the wider arts and culture.
I think some of the challenges for the sort of music scene in Aberdeen at the moment is that we maybe don't get as much of a look in from the sort of central belt organisations as we should. I think there's a lot of incredible talent that comes out of Aberdeen, and every time I'm in these bigger cities, people always say to me, like, what's happening up in Aberdeen? Like, there's so much incredible stuff coming out, but we don't necessarily get as much of a look in. So I think it would be good to see more of these kind of conferences and events and things taking place up here, because I think we have just as much to offer. What we have to kind of do here is work, you know, twice as hard to make the stuff visible, because you're maybe not getting the coverage and not getting out to these things that are super localized to the Central Belt.
It's almost as if the music industry expects, if you want to make it, you get off your backside and you go south.
It's just a long way, you know, it's just a long way anywhere. Even when we go across to Europe, and when we, you know, tour in Europe, for us, we have to make a journey to Newcastle at least to jump on the ferry. There is no place in Scotland where we could take off to Europe. If you want to do a gig in London, that's 550 miles away from here. You know, it's tricky for a young band. Of course, it's tricky. So location plays a big part of it.
Aberdeen is not that much different from further north. There seems to be a kind of mental kind of block, because I've had this, where you imagine and think that anybody south of Aberdeen is going to make mincemeat out of you. You're not going to be good enough to even play there.
The biggest challenge, because it's so small, is just getting the buzz out there. I think when you think of music in Scotland, people automatically think Glasgow, Edinburgh. But there is so much talent in Aberdeen, but that is the thing that we need to do, just get the buzz out there. Something that used to happen to me a lot is that I would be put in a set list with rappers. And so you'd have rappers and then one singer, which was a bit like, you know, off. And so I wouldn't know how to like place my sound in that occasion. But yeah, just management and representatives, I think, something that I need to work on.
If you want something bad enough, you're gonna make it work. So, you know, so you can call this, you can call that, or we're isolated, blah, blah. If you want to make something work, you will find a way. We've lost the drummer, we didn't give up and we carried on, and that was difficult. That was probably the lowest point. Dave passed away around midnight. By 9 o'clock in the morning, we were in front of camera doing interview, doing live performance, and that night we've actually done the show. So when I say if you want it bad enough, you're gonna make it work. And I know that if he saw us doing this, he would laugh and would say, that's how you do it, boys.
So I ended up in a hospital for 6 months. I remember I would sing to the nurses, sing to the health care support workers, sing to whoever would listen. And even the reaction, I know that it was a place that everybody there was unwell. The patients that were there were unwell. I noticed that sometimes when I would sing, people would cry, and I would realize that music is so beautiful that it brings out the rawest of emotions sometimes, even in places like the hospital, to be honest. Being able to listen to music, make music, sing, I think is therapeutic for me. You will always find a song for every emotion that you can possibly think of or could possibly feel. It's really amazing just to see that songs that you've worked on behind closed doors, people like are taken to it, and I think it's the beauty of the art to be able to see how your gift can, you know, bless or affect other people. And I think that's what our gift is for. The gift is not for you, it's for others.
I think we're all on the same page when, you know, we really want to deliver a spectacular night for the punter. We always seem to do that. We always seem to wow the audience, and especially the new audiences or new people in the audience. When we first start, you can see the, like, what is this? And that was always giving us a buzz. Being a memory in their minds as a music fan.
Well, nothing beats a live performance. No matter the outcome, interaction with other people, I think that is the best part of gigging for me.
You have to enjoy what you're doing and have the sort of passion for it, because otherwise it's like, what's the point of putting myself through doing this, sitting down for hours and hours and tweaking a snare? Like it's always been just something that I love doing. So I think it's something that I'll always do, regardless of anything kind of outside that. The biggest joy that I take from my work as a producer is being able to create a sort of canvas and a platform for the artist to speak about what they want to speak about. So when people listen to it, I hope that they would maybe resonate with some of the things that have been spoken around. It can be good to help you kind of explore feelings, the sort of collaborative nature of it, I think, as well, like getting into spaces with other artists. Naturally allows you to sort of have a bit more sort of discussions about what's going on, and allows you to talk with your peers to be able to kind of explore things that you're facing and issues that you're maybe struggling with.
The amount of times as a musician you have people come up to you and go, oh, I used to play guitar, or oh, I used to play drums. And it's like, why did you used to? Don't put your instrument down, because the more time goes on, the more difficult it is to pick it back up again.
You've got to show young people, especially in this day and age, that there is a world outside of the screen of the mobile phone, that there is a world outside of Netflix. So I think certainly, life events will encourage young people. Absolutely. And show them that there is life outside of your likes on social media, your Spotify plays, and all that nonsense. That's actually about music and spending the time with others, I believe.
You can support local artists by seeing what's happening at the Lemon Tree on a Friday night, going down and checking it out. Open mic nights that are happening in many different sort of bars and pubs around the city. Pretty much every night of the week you can go in and find somebody. Word of mouth is massive for that kind of grassroots level of just helping to build a sort of buzz. A rising tide lifts all boats. Like, it doesn't take away from what I'm doing for somebody else to have success. So, and then if somebody else from Aberdeen has success, it brings more of a spotlight into Aberdeen anyway, so then I benefit from that. So you want as many people as possible to see success and see wins.
We want to see local artists coming through, whatever shape or form, and producing shows and getting the opportunity to bring music to the city. Because we know, and as clinical as it sounds, it's a winner. That's the raison d'etre Aberdeen Inspire, to bring people in, get them to spend time here and enjoy the musical extravaganza. But with that, and as clinical as it sounds, spend money. And that's where the business improvement district really takes an added interest in things.
It could be a creative hub, way more than it is currently. It could be sort of an incubator for talent. A lot of other cities have flourishing scenes. We could be out there with bands every night of the week, filling these venues up. If people are willing to part with a little bit of cash and go and see them, or just give new acts a chance, because if you don't, there won't be a scene. Big believer in Aberdeen being an extremely important part of people's journey. There's always going to be creative people in amongst the local scene, but if you want that scene to progress, if you want to be proud of where you're from and the people that are coming out of it, the talent that comes from it, you have to go out and support it. The smallest sort of things can make a huge difference to a creative, and any kind of support that you can give is always really worthwhile, and it helps push Aberdeen forward as a scene and as a town, because we want to be known as a great city for culture.
for the music scene in Aberdeen, it's really important that people get behind it. This wouldn't be seen as one of the highlights in terms of cities across the world. Let's put some perspective on that, but there's lots of talent here. A lot of it unrealised. I think we have to accept that as well. It's all very well saying nothing happens in the city. There's plenty happening in this city, but it's incumbent upon us all to get behind it. And we've got to take every opportunity, and I mean we, that's the wider public, but also organisations across the board, to get behind the local talent, bring them to the fore, nurture them, support them in any way we can through festivals and publicise and marketing, getting that comms message out that we've got some great talent here unearthed, and bring them on to greater things. I think we've all a responsibility for that, and that will then encourage in turn more people to come into the industry and build that Aberdeen brand.